Hi, Daniel from Two Petals here. Today I just want to show you a few tips and tricks to get a perfect 1/4 inch seam on your Bernina sewing machine. Let's take a look. To get the most accurate seam possible, it's important to use the correct foot. If you have a Bernina machine that has 5.5mm stitch width, using the 37 foot, 1/4 inch foot, or the 57 1/4 inch foot with a guide is preferable. If you have a 9mm machine, the 97D foot is amazing for that. It has a 1/4 inch foot without the guide, plus an optional guide that screws onto your machine optionally, so you can take that on and off as you need. I've got the 97D foot on my machine at the moment, and with the D feet, it's always important to engage the dual feet at the back here, just to make sure your stitching is going to be as precise as possible. How you set up your sewing machine is usually only half the story as well. You also want to make sure that your cutting is perfect and accurate. And if your seams are fraying before you start to even sew, you're going to find that it's very hard to keep the edge of your fabric accurately against the edge of the foot. So if your fabric is super fraying, you might want to consider starching it, or as soon as you've cut it, sew it, so it's not being handled too much and it gets all frayed and difficult to follow the edge. I'll neaten this edge up and then we'll get to sewing. Okay, let's get to sewing. I've got the camera right in front of my face, so hopefully your view is as close as possible to what I'm actually seeing. When I start my seam, I like to lower the foot, and if your machine has the automatic little hover function, that's super handy for getting the initial part of your seam lined up perfectly with the edge of the foot. As we sew with this 1/4 inch foot, I want to be following the edge of my fabric right along the outside edge of this one. If you don't have the automatic hovering function on your machine, you can also use a knee lift just to lift it slightly and get that initial position perfect. Once you're happy with how that's placed, we can start to sew. And I just want to follow the edge of my fabric along the foot there. You don't need to go particularly fast. There's also a guide mark on the stitch plate here that I'm following, which is a 1/4 inch. So that helps to guide the fabric initially before it reaches the foot as well, just to make sure you're on track and accurate. I'm approaching the end. Do a few locking stitches and cut the thread. That's how that turned out. Looking quite accurate there. Let's have a look how it looks on the ruler and see how we did. I've got my ruler lined up with the edge of the fabric here, and as you can see, all the way along is a pretty good 1/4 inch. One exercise I like to do when I was first getting to know this foot is to sew a bunch of lines next to each other and see how accurate each of my 1/4 inch seams is. So I'll continue doing that and we'll see how it turns out. Just to practice, I'm going to continue sewing some 1/4 inch seams and just see how my accuracy is. It's all looking pretty even there. Let's see how it looks on the ruler. Here's my results after sewing a couple of 1/4 inch seams next to each other. This exercise is really handy for learning exactly where the edge of your fabric needs to be against the foot to get that perfect 1/4 inch seam. And it's good practice to see how you go, because each error that you make on each seam is going to compound over time. So if you can get it pretty accurate after sewing repeatedly, then you know you're doing pretty well. I'm just going to sew a few more seams just for fun. Nice and even all around. Just takes practice. I hope this video helped you to get a perfect 1/4" seam on your Bernina sewing machine. If you have any questions or you have any tips you'd like to share, leave them in the comments below. Thanks and see you later.